in the subject. Thank you for starting the recording. Before moving on and getting right in the subject, instead of an icebreaker, we have prepared an online attendance list. So I will ask my colleagues to provide the link in the chat to all the participants. Please use this Google form to leave us your contact details. Thank you for that. And now I'll pass the floor to my colleague Rebecca to present you just a few details of the Ready4NetZero project. Thank you.
Thank you, Leah. I will just start sharing my screen. So you can see it?
We can. Everything is all right.
Yes. Okay, great. Thank you. So welcome also from my side. As already introduced, my name is Rebecca Möbel, and I'm working at the Ecological Institute as part of the project team. So as you may know, this is like the first webinar of our webinar series. And to just give you a deeper understanding of our project and the project background, I just have a few slides to present to you for further information. And I think the bar doesn't go away, but it's not disturbing. So just as a background, in a nutshell, you all know that climate change is one of the key challenges that we are facing today. And we have to react. And one of the reactions is that the EU is leading this fight in striving for net neutrality by 2050 within their programs and strategies. So climate neutrality is something you will have heard of, but just to give you a kind of like short definition what it is, that climate neutrality refers to the idea to achieve net zero gas emissions by reducing and balancing these emissions to be equal to the emissions that get removed through the planet's natural absorption. So achieving this transition to a climate neutral society, it is a big challenge and needs the participation of the whole society, of all economic sectors and all levels of administration that play a role. So we also identified that cities are at the forefront of mitigating climate change and also achieving net neutrality, since they have the capacities and the tools to act, and often really the will and the thrive, as well as they are closest to the citizens and are able to offer solutions that are both economically and socially friendly. One of the key tools, as there are many in the drive to achieve climate neutrality, is local long-term climate neutrality strategies, as already mentioned by Leah, which are in short LLCS, that can guide the cities in the process of achieving climate neutrality. So there's the key challenges to face to achieving net zero, which are for once the limited staff capacities and resources that often occur both technically and financially, but also from this, the side of the people available to act, that are really hampering the potential to act for climate and the goal for net neutrality. So there are also often knowledge gaps regarding the setting, the implementation, and the monitoring of these visions and targets, and the lack of technical expertise, and also on translating this LLCS into short and midterm strategies and concrete actions on the ground. The lack of sufficient governance frameworks and the lack of support from national and regional level, or also lack of working and functioning participation processes, is often a problem to support the design and implementation of LLCS. So there's often also, lastly, lack of access to context-specific knowledge or case studies or relevant tools, also exchange formats and opportunities to build capacities on the topic. And this is one challenge that we are able to address and face. So this is basically the key goal of Ready4NetZero. So the main objectives are to support small and medium-sized cities in Poland, Romania, Hungary, and Croatia in developing and implementing these LLCS through, for instance, developing capacity, knowledge, and skills among the municipalities and officials, staff, and local stakeholders. Also to foster exchange and networking between municipalities, to elaborate guidance for developing ambitious LLCS, as well as a tailored capacity development program that consists of webinar series, in-person workshops in pilot cities, and a study visit also in Germany. We are also kickstarting concrete actions that directly contribute to the development of LLCS in pilot cities in Poland, Hungary, Croatia, and Romania. For instance, with activities such as co-creation processes, a stakeholder engagement campaign, also conducting necessary study. Last, we also intend to disseminate our products and results to a broader audience by an online platform and also a communication campaign and train-to-trainer events. So just really in brief, we also have this as a stepwise approach. We have the first step to develop a guidance document on developing ambitious LLCS, which is currently ongoing, and we intend to finalize the versions by the end of the year, which will also be available in the different languages. Secondly, we elaborated on a capacity building program, which is also like one part of it is also the webinar series we're looking at now, and also diverse training activities. In the third step, we are, as already mentioned, starting this concrete actions towards the development of LLCS in the partner cities, and then lastly also disseminating the project results. And this is all aimed to achieve the goal to equip municipality staff in the pilot cities and other cities with capacities, knowledge networks, and tools to develop and implement the LLCS. So lastly, just to frame it again today, the webinar series is kickstarting now within our capacity development program that intends to facilitate knowledge exchange and capacity development by providing a forum for exchange. Yeah, so this is already it. We are the 5 partners, and we are really looking forward to this webinar today and give you some insights on the one side and facilitate the exchange on the other. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rebecca, for the very extensive introduction. Now that we all know about the project, I'm going to welcome once again Mr. Helmut Muthig. If you are ready, we're very, very keen on learning.
I'll be ready.
So much from you. Thank you. You have the floor.
Thank you, Leah. Thank you for your warm introduction. And I'm trying to make it run. Where's my cursor? I'm missing my cursor. Here we are. Okay. So can you see it now? Is everything technically right?
We can see
the presentation.
Yes.
I have to. So I'm fine. Once again, thank you for the warm introduction. Once again, thank you for having the opportunity to present you what we did in Pfaffenhofen here. But first of all, a more general introductory remark from my side. What I will present to you is not the universal and generally valid recipe about climate neutrality and net zero for everybody. So it will not work the same way as we did it here, maybe in your town, on your country. It shows only the way how we did it here in Pfaffenhofen under the circumstances and under the boundary conditions that we experience here. And to my opinion is that the best outcome of my presentation would be if you can find the one or other impulse that you think is necessary and is worthwhile and that will work for your country, your town, or your village. That's all that I intend to present to you. And now lean back and enjoy the presentation. First of all, some information about my personal background, as already had been summarized by Leah. I had an academic career which started around about 50 years from now. I'm very surprised about that. When I started my studies of physics at the Technical University of Munich, where I received a diploma in experimental physics. I worked as the operations manager at the cyclotron, and finally I made my doctorate in applied nuclear physics. Then I started the industrial career. As already mentioned, I worked in this defense and aerospace industry. MBB, DASA, EADS were the several names of the company, but it was always the same company that I worked for. And the final years I was managing director of TDW, a daughter company of MBDA. And then my post-professional career started after my retirement, when I became member of several societies and board cooperatives and so on, because this was the time when I started as a freelancer with more or less honorary appointments for different entities in Pfaffenhofen. And this explains why I'm the one that usually have to make such presentations, because I'm an old white man and have a lot of experience in that. Okay, so now I'm doing these presentations with, I give presentations in Interreg program in Europe, but also I work a lot with children, and this is the fun part of my obligations now. Additional some information about my hometown, Pfaffenhofen. We are right in the middle of a boom region. You know, this is Europe, Germany, and in the southeast part of Germany, there is Bavaria, and within Bavaria, there is Pfaffenhofen. So Pfaffenhofen is in the middle of between Munich and Nuremberg on the one side, Augsburg, Regensburg. So this is exactly where we are. You see, this is the map of Bavaria. The gray part is the county of Pfaffenhofen, the Landkreis, this gray one. And within this county, the city of Pfaffenhofen is centered here. That's the geographic position, and now some information, additional figures. The best of city and country, I will show this to you with some 2 or 3 photographs. The population of our city is about 27,000, and you see here this is our main place, the central place. On the west side, the church, and on the east side, the town hall. And in between is our most important area to meet people and to perform the actions. So this is the next part I wanted to mention. We are within an area that is called the Hallertau. And if you don't know what this means, this is the largest contiguous hops growing area in the world. This is where hops is raised, and this is a very important ingredient for beer. For those who like it, they will be, of course, aware of that, and the others now have learned it. But this is now, hops is the country part, this country part. You see again, this is somewhere here is our main place between the church and the town hall. And some 100 meters outside, there are the hops growing field. And this gives you that impression that the city is within green woods and green hops growing field. So that this circumstance. It is, as I already mentioned, a medium-sized city in the heart of Bavaria. We have a very low unemployment rate, 2% as of last August, and compared to Germany, it's nearly 3 times that value. We have important industry, smaller industries. Maybe you know the HIP baby food company, and we have Daiichi Sankyo, a pharmaceutical producer. But there are also strong companies nearby, especially automotive, Audi in Ingolstadt, BMW in Munich, Airbus in Manking, and we have also some small petrochemistry around. One of the achievements in the past is that Pfaffenhofen had been the award winner of being world's most livable communities back in 2011. This was in the category up to 25,000 inhabitants. We won this gold medal, and other German sustainability prizes had been awarded, or we had been decided as an energy commune, things like that. Not so important. But what I would like to show you today is the possible way to climate neutrality, how Pfaffenhofen performed it in the past. And this gives the outline of my presentation of today. The starting point, I will show you the starting point, the initial situation as of 2001, the first part of our long way. That would mean the activities from around 2008 to 2020. Then we had a break. We reconsidered and realigned our aims in the COVID-19 years in 2021, and we finalized it in 2022. And then we had a new path and a new direction, new goals. And this is what I will present to you in the way forward, the finish from 2023 up to 2035. This is our goal, and this is the year that we want to be climate neutral, and that we would like to have achieved net zero. And finally, I think it would be worthwhile, not as a teacher, but just to present to you the lessons learned, that what we experienced and what we think had been the key successful factors, how to achieve these goals so far, and how we think what is important to go to the future. So the starting point, as in 2001, it was a kind of an happy accident. In those days, a handful of private investors made up their plans, and they invested into a biomass combined heat and power plant, plus a district heating network. And this started operation in 2001. And it is fired by natural wood residues from the region. So this is what we understand with biomass, wood residues from here. The annual output is about 40,000 megawatt hours of electricity and 45 megawatt hours of heat. It supplies about 6,500 households with heat and about 10,000 households with electricity. And by doing that, we save the amount of 22,000 tons of CO2 per year. So this was a real good starting point. And this was also recognized from the federal administration. And the German Environment Agency, the Umweltbundesamt, recognized this as a role model, Pfaffenhofen. And in a press release, they wrote down, as the first German municipality, Pfaffenhofen fulfilled the climate protection goals of the German federal government, which are derived from the Kyoto Protocol of the United Nations. So this was an excellent recognition of our activities so far, although we did not too much. It wasn't, as I mentioned already, a happy accident. Pfaffenhofen reduced its CO2 emissions by 32% compared to the reference years 1990. And the German goal at that time was minus 25% until 2005.
So we were much ahead. And if we take the absolute values and calculate them down per citizen, this resulted in about 6.6 tons of CO2 per head count per capita and year in 2013. And for comparison, this value was about 9 tons for whole Germany. So we were already well ahead. Okay, this was, let's say, a positive basis. A very important year for our history and for the way how we move on for net zero was the year 2008. In 2008, something interesting happened. Sometimes you have to be lucky, of course, and sometimes you could mention it as well as the time was ripe. What happened? In that year, we had new election of the city council in Pfaffenhofen, and we had a new political landscape. The so-called colorful political coalition was elected, and this means the colorful town hall where Social Democrats, Independent Party, Ecological Party, Green parties built this coalition, and this new representative paid much more attention. For them, it was more important to work on the upcoming climate change, and they realized that there is a need for an energy system transformation away from fossils, of course. So this was, the coalition was set, and they started their work in parallel by just working on establishing public initiatives. So they worked on how to find appropriate and willing stakeholders for the transformation process. They defined a format how communication can be done with the public, and established a lot of information channels, and I will come back to those in detail in a couple of minutes. At the same year, 2008, another event occurred, and this was here in Pfaffenhofen, the foundation of the Energy and Solar Society, in German the Energie- und Solarverein, ESV. This is a registered non-profit society. It is a club, more or less, and it has about 20 active members. So those are the ones that are doing the work, and they come from the field of construction, physics, energy, environmental protection, engineering, etc., etc. And additionally to the 20 active members, there are about 70 supporting members. So those are the ones that pay their contribution every year and support us according to their whatever capabilities they have. The main objective of ESV is to reach an energy autonomy of Pfaffenhofen. Self-sufficiency is meant by this, a socially acceptable implementation of the energy turnaround, and keeping energy generation and value creation on site. That means we want to pay our energy producers for their product, and we will not pay the sheikh for oil or the gas barons for their gas. So this was one of the major attention. And this organization, this was the founding photograph. This is Mr. ESV, Andreas Herschmann, and maybe you see him on a lot of pictures. He is the one who really founded that club. One of the major achievements of ESV is to create and to run and operate the annual Energy for All Week, in English, the Energie für alle Wochen in German, which was the famous Energy Transition Congress for the Pfaffenhofen region. We did this 10 times in that period. And this was let's say, a format for presentations, exhibitions, discussion, networking. You see this here, excursions, but also entertainment. For instance, things like a science dinner and funny experiments, just to gather the people, those who are interested in energy turnaround, to make them aware of that there is something on the background that has to be fulfilled. And this you can see here. It was one of our purpose to mobilize the public. That means to awake the awareness for the big challenges to come. And here you see in front of our town hall, people gathering and forming the word Stop CO2, just to make them aware of that there is something going on. And we also defined in those days already the first goal. As I mentioned before, when I calculated down at the starting time, 2010 to 2013, the CO2 emission per capita was about 6.6 tons. And our goal was to reduce it to 3 tons in 2030. This was the expressed goal. And compared to the German situation, that was about nearly the 10 tons, and they wanted to reduce it to 6 tons. As 6 tons was nearly our starting value, we wanted to be more ambitious, and we were heading for 3 tons in that time. So let's join, let's gather all the people, and we worked on this kick-off event on May 2012, where this idea was presented to the people. People could discuss and work on that. Where stands the city today? Today means 2012. And what is possible? Where do we want to go? How can we achieve the 3-ton goals? And let's say combining the public and make them working together. We organized 2 public workshops in June and July 2012 with expert and with citizen participations. And you see the workshop environments where people had been discussing, where we're playing, pinning opinions on the wall and all together. At the end of the day, we had this first integrated climate protection concept. Integriertes Klimaschutzkonzept was how we named this, and this was long before an LLCS had been invented, a long-term, but it's more or less the same. This content is more or less the same. This was the first, again, ICPC 1 in 22. It had already, I cannot see it because it's hidden up on my screen, but I think it has 238 pages, something like that. The contents had been, there was an extensive analysis of the starting position with regard to energy, food, carbon, and so on. Then there was a potential analysis. What could we save and how could we improve efficiency? So to reduce the energy demand for the future, what different kinds of energy sources could be evaluated, photovoltaics, biomass, wind, whatever. And then we made an assessment of these different scenarios. And at the end, we had an action plan, and a list of around about 80 actions had been defined. And all of each and every of these actions had been assessed with regard to their cost impact, what would it cost, and with regard to CO2 reduction, what would be the potential to minimize or to reduce the CO2. I will not show you all these 80 actions. No, don't be afraid of that. But this is an important information. I think I need it for the next view graph as well. This shows the share of CO2 emissions per sector. And what you see is the electricity sector contributes with about 20%, heat 43%, and mobility traffic 37%. So if we would be clever, you said, okay, then to get a short success, it would be worthwhile to work on this main contributors to CO2 emissions. But this is not what we did. And there had been a strategic decision to do that. Again, when we have this in mind, although the biggest contribution originates from heat and mobility, we decided to start with electricity. This would allow us to achieve quick wins in a short time. You would have success not very easily, but easier than in the other sectors. Why? In this field, we are relatively independent from any federal or other superimposed regulations, legislations, or whatever. We can handle this field by our own. It would not require a rapid change in citizens' behavior. I mean, when you tell them, hey, forget your car, move yourself by bicycle, then this is because we want to improve the traffic mobility sector, then this means a change in behavior. If you tell them, hey, switch from ordinary general electricity as it is delivered today to a clean electricity that is provided by ourselves, then it's easier. And more available renewable electricity would also provide an additional benefit, because this would pave the way for an all-electric future. That is our plan, because that means that we need more electricity for heat generation by heat pumps and for electromobility. Very easy. A heat pump needs only 1/3 of energy to heat a house compared to when you burn your oil or gas. And the same is for electromobility. 100% of input energy will be converted into motion up to 89%, which is not the case if you use a combustion engine. Then only 1/3 goes into motion and 2/3 are lost heat to the environment. So this is more or less a moving oven. Okay, next year, or a couple of years ago, in order to do all these activities that are pointed out in our action plan, it was the year that the Citizen Energy Cooperative, the Bürger Energiegenossenschaft, BEG, had been founded as a result of an initiative of ESW. Today, we have more than 1,000 members in this cooperative and more than 10,000 shares. And I will show you on the next slide how this works. This was the first cooperative solar carport. You see here, this is a carport, and as it is roofed, and on the roof there are solar panels to harvest solar energy. And the other very important point was the groundbreaking ceremony for the first public funded wind turbine in Lustholz, which is now already in operation since 2016. And in springtime this year, we had the groundbreaking ceremony for the first wind farm. This will be 3 wind turbines, which are now under construction. And this is a photograph from last Sunday, the day before yesterday. You see, this is the existing Lustholz wind turbine, and this is the first of 3 additional wind turbines that we are building here. Coming back to the Citizen Energy Cooperative, I know the word cooperative is in some of your countries negative occupied due to your communist past or things like that. In our case, it's really, I would say, nearly a capitalistic construction. How to become a member of the cooperative? You buy at minimum 1 share. 1 share costs €100, and you are allowed to buy up to 50 shares. So that means you cannot invest into the cooperative more than €5,000. This is to avoid that any big investor would buy in and would become the master of the cooperative and would dominate this. Now, this is the maximum. On the other hand, you become co-owner of the cooperative with 1 vote, independent of the number of shares, independent whether you buy only 100 or you buy 5,000. 1 vote. And as a member of the cooperative, only as a member, you are entitled to participate in profits of the cooperative. Once the cooperative is profitable, you can have, you share this profit. But this is not the important one. Important is, as a member, as a cooperative member, you are entitled to invest into the different projects, renewable energy project that the cooperative is launching. And these are some examples. We offer the cooperative offers because it's owning and running their own electricity or energy producing devices like wind farms, solar parks, a water power plant, biomass, things like that. You can participate on that by starting with maybe €1,000, but there are also people that have 10,000, 20,000, up to 100,000, because you get your interest rates from, depending on what the business case is telling us, 3 to 5% for wind. Biogas was one of the 6% interests, and so on. The members are granting a partial loan to the cooperative. So you pay in your, let's say, €10,000, and the annual return of interest is what you receive, plus a proportionate repayment of the loan. If it's maybe 20 years of duration, you get the first year only your interest, and then every year 1/20 of your invested sum, it will be paid back. So actual projects are the solar that I already told you, the solar parking place, water, wind, and biogas, not so important. Another important thing is that, which was really a milestone for Pfaffenhofen to reach its independence, is that we bought back the gas and the electricity grid. So these networks are now in the possession of the city of Pfaffenhofen. So new companies had been, daughter companies had been established, the electricity supply and the gas supply company, and we are doing this by ourselves. And this is why we could set up an electricity transition program. Again, let's have a look at the starting point in about 2016. 70% of electricity had already been produced in a clean and sustainable way, but this is due to our combined heat and power plant. It's valid for 46% of the electricity. Altogether, with photovoltaic, the one wind turbine we had in those times contributes to about 70%. On the other hand, 30% had to be procured from outside, from the public grid. You see, we had to buy 30% overall in 1 year. And on the same time, we were able to export 8 kilowatt hours per year to neighboring local communities. This is an indication that our grid is not yet balanced, because we have no storage capacity in those days. This is something that will be improved within the next step, and this is the goal that we have for next year. For instance, we will add 2 more photovoltaic plants, and we will add the 3 wind turbines that are under construction now. And then we will have up to 100% clean electricity, and we will have autonomy, self-sufficiency with about 110, 111 gigawatt hours. Very important for this overall situation is that we will also build up energy storage. This is why we will build up a power to gas plant where we can store our excess electricity that we get from wind or solar in times when they produce too much electricity. The way is quite easy. I don't want to explain this in detail. We have electricity with an electrolyzer. We produce hydrogen. From our wastewater treatment, we derive the CO2, and maybe from air, I don't know. In the bioreactor, this is converted into methane. Methane is the same as natural gas, And natural gas, we can supply cars, or we can store it in this is the gas. We can store it, or we can put it even in the gas grid as a sustainable gas, which is not full of fossils, but made from the nature. And this is the most important part, that now we will have a seasonal energy storage. Seasonal means that we could store energy that comes from an excess electricity in winter, if the wind turbines are producing too much, or excess solar energy in summer. We can store it and use it then when we need it. So, okay, this was, let's say, the part of the electricity transition. But there are other sectors that had to be worked on to reduce the CO2 footprint. For instance, mobility. We had been in the lucky position in the past. Maybe this is no longer valid for the years to come. But in 2018, we introduced a free public bus transport for the citizens. So they don't have to pay any cent when they are traveling here around in the city. And the aim was, in order to reduce the private car traffic in town, to reduce the energy consumption and to reduce the CO2 emissions from them. In parallel, we worked on the mobility by creating vehicle sharing concepts. So we have car sharing, but also bike sharing, and especially cargo bikes. You can see here and here and the view graphs. This is very important. And since last year, we have not only regular diesel cars, we have also the electric cars. Electromobility is very important now. We have the charging stations that are built up by Stadtwerke. And we have a mobility app that shows you where to find the next point where you can pick up your car and where you could deliver it. Very important for mobility. And the next part, not only mobility, but also to clean the air and to store CO2 in soil, is this approach. So we will build up, plant more than 203 trees, and we will plant here for climate insect-free environment. Some farmers combined their activities, and they founded the pilot project Soil Climate, and they are working on the storage of greenhouse gases by a special humus-rich and arable soils, which are less sensitive to the effects of climate change, with more resistant to the higher temperatures, but also to store CO2. Well, this leads me to the point where we had to make a break, because these were the activities up to 2018, 2020, but then our environment, the situation where we lived had changed. And if something changed, you cannot change the wind, but you can adjust the sails to reach your destination. And this is exactly what happened. You remember the goal of the first integrated climate protection plan was to reduce the CO2 emission from 6.6 to 3 tons. Or here you can see it in 2030, we want to have 3 tons. If we would follow, and this is this orange line, if we would follow this line and extrapolate it to the end, we will end with a net zero in about 2047, which is this, okay, it's before 2050, but it's not sufficient. Because in parallel, Germany had new goals for net zero, and also Bavaria. So they wanted to achieve net zero in 2045 and in 2040. So Pfaffenhofen decided, we want to be more ambitious than those, as we did in the past. And our new goal is to be climate neutral by 2035.
And this is the new goal worked out in the new integrated climate protection concept that had been put into operation in 2022. This is the concept. This is again the booklet, not more 238 pages, only 123 pages. Again, a kind of an LLCS. It had to be elaborated during the constraints, or with the constraints of COVID-19. So we had to work a lot on virtual workspaces, as you are aware of that. But new tools, very let's say powerful tools, had been developed for that. So you could vote by internet on what you think is better. And so again, this was by a lot of experts, and also public citizen had been involved during the opportunities when we could ask the public and were not constrained by contact limitations. The result is at the end that it turned out that there will be a big transformation process necessary to transform Pfaffenhofen from 2020 to 2035. Or the reference here was 2018. This was the one. These were the figures that we worked on in these workshops. I show you only the amount of electricity that had been consumed in 2018. 110, you have seen this figure already, 111 gigawatt hours per year. And this has to be transformed into 210. This is nearly twice that amount, because of the all-electric strategy that I mentioned before. If you want to run heat pumps and electric cars, you have to provide more electricity. But on the other hand, we have to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions from the 130 kilotons per year to 0. This is the game. But what a transformation process needs is to define the processes, the single detailed processes, and the roles of all the stakeholders. You have to provide personnel with the appropriate skills. You have to provide an action plan. How long would it take? How much would it cost? You are doing good to define interim targets and interim reviews. So that's the ordinary transformation process. So this is the way forward that we want to run now, and these are the consequences. So this is an excerpt of the action plan. For building construction, for new buildings, the goal is clear: no additional greenhouse gas emissions. That means high efficiency new buildings only with 100% renewable energies. Electricity, the one that I already explained to you, 100% of future electricity by renewable energies. That, if we break this down, that would mean we have to add approximately another amount of 10 wind turbines and 60 hectare open space solar parks. This means that actually we have the 110, and then we can go to the 210 gigawatt hours that I told you before. For heat generation, very important. No fossil heating anymore in 2032. Every heating should be replaced by either renewable district heating or renewable energy, fossil-free gas or whatever, or for instance, heat pumps. This would mean that we have to replace about 230 fossil heating systems per year. This means this is the renovation rate. That is roughly split up into 80 systems would be replaced by renewable district heating. So they will be provided by the heat grid, and about 150 heating system, so standalone heating system, by other non-fossil heatings, mainly heat pumps, wood pellets, and things like that. For building refurbishment, I already told you the partial energetic reconstruction of building is necessary. Again, we need a rate of 130 buildings per year of fully refurbished and 210 buildings per year partly refurbished. This corresponds to about 5% of the existing buildings. That means we have a rate of, no, that's okay, 5%. So these are 340. At the time being, we are doing 70 buildings per year. So we have to increase the existing number roughly by a factor of 5. That would be not easy. And this is the goal, every energy heat consumption at the end. Mobility, again, we have to replace all the existing cars by electric cars. That means about 100 new electric cars per year. And at the end, we will have the replacement of the entire fleet. And of course, to change the behavior of the people as it is possible for them, so that they should walk or bicycle, or they should use public transport wherever possible. And this is why we have the free of charge public transportation buses. So this gives you the overall plan for the next years to come, where we want to do. One of the most important, and if you remember the pie chart I had at the beginning, when you see that traffic, mobility, and buildings and heat are very important, then you can imagine that the efforts for the transformation in heating would be a big one. This is an view graphs from our Ministry of Economic Affairs. This should show you the actual situation of most of the, let's say, old buildings. If you look at the new buildings, they are, of course, according to the positive standards. But the existing ones, they have, let's say, the walls and the roof and the heating is not up to date, but this has to be refurbished. And at the end, in 2035, you have the optimum walls, you have the optimum heating and warm water production and things like that. So this is existing and goal at the end of the next, let's say, 12, 15 years. And to do this, we support our citizens already today, because climate-friendly heat is a key factor. The buildings had to be isolated but to do it right and not to spend your money useless. It is very important that in the initial phase of a renovation, you take the advice of energy consultancy. And for doing that, there are already programs foreseeing a federal funding of 80% of the consultant's cost. And the city decided we will add the additional 20%, so that overall this would be cost-free for all of the citizens, in order to get this energy consultancy with the goal to establish an individual renovation roadmap. And this is, again, just a sketch what we mean by that. That means people can take this roadmap, they get a situation of what is the situation today as is, as a starting point, and they get several steps. They can be mixed up, that's clear, but they actually get several steps that at the end, in about 12, 15 years, they have their house of the future. You see the energy costs are reduced very much. The primary energy demand is reduced. Very important, the CO2 emission is reducing from 72 kilograms per square meter and year to 9 kilograms per square meter and year. So this is 1/8 of that. Of course, this costs something, and you need not to spend the complete amount at the very beginning. You can split it into several portions over the years. Some of them you have to renovate your building anyway. And on the other hand, you get subsidies from several federal programs, financial support for doing that. This is now under new discussion in Germany and will be set into force in the next coming weeks. Very important that we also tackle the
building and heat field, serious sector, whatever you want to have. Now, I'm coming to my summary. I think maybe this again gives you to repeat what I told you. I told you the starting point with our combined heat and electric power plant in 2001. I showed you the first part of the past, especially when we established the climate protection concept #1. I told you why and how we reconsidered the way and realigned our goal by establishing the integrated climate concept 2. And I showed you also the next steps that we planned, especially for refurbishing buildings and things like that, and additional wind power and solar power plants, so that we can achieve that. According to my experience, so this is more or less my personal understanding. This is not agreed too much by anybody else, but this is my experience over the last, let's say, it's not 20 years, but 15 years as I'm working in this area. Okay, just have a look and think what I mean by that. Very important is that we have to raise the awareness and to attract the opinion of the public, because they are the ones that are concerned. It's their money, it's their house, their building that has to be changed, and it's their behavior on how to move for traffic, for instance. What I mean is, in order to define accepted targets and to involve people in decision making, this is what I tell you later, it helps to start from where the people usually are. So pick them up where they are. Here they are in our marketplace, where every Tuesday and Saturday people are here on the market and buy their grocery stuff. Or we shall work from the very beginning with children. So this is the kindergarten, where you can already raise the awareness of how to save energy. What is energy at all? There's different forms of energy. How can we save them? Or here we do some experiments at school with a solar-driven car, just for awareness raising and make them aware of that. And sometimes you even have to shock the public. This were a series of view graphs that we put it out during in the city. Is this how you want to live in the future? I mean, this is no longer valid. We are not afraid of that. It's maybe if the Gulf Stream is destroyed, maybe this can also. But is it flood, or is it a desert situation that you want to live in the future, where all our beautiful main place is covered by sand? Nobody knows. It's very important, even in aware-raising activities, to be honest. It will not be an easy way, and don't promise the people that it would be an easy way. Here it's written, life begins at the end of the comfort zone. I say, net zero begins at the end of your comfort zone. It will not be, again, free of charge. You have to change something. Either you have to spend money, or you have to change your behavior. Very interesting. Again, so take the people, inform them. So in Pfaffenhofen, we do it by climate protection and sustainability days. And some of the previous Interact program participants could visit them. They had been here in 2021, I think. We also have an annual climate protection award, where people can apply for that, for a special efforts they have done by isolating their home, or they reduced their CO2 emission by this or that. So last year there was a class at school that won this prize. So these are the things we do, or we do things like that. Very important. Just
involve citizen, next step, involve citizen, keep them informed, pick them up, and accompany them. Try out new formats, as we did it for the Thinkathon. You can read about this format, how you can interest people in applying and inventing new creative forms of cooperation. And it's very interesting how new ideas will pop up by this Thinkathon method, just as an hint. Provide transparency wherever possible. So we have built up the Pfaffenhofen Power Monitor. You can see it on your laptop or wherever at the PC. Where does the energy come from at each and every moment? How is the degree of self-sufficiency? How much is provided by these sources, and where is it used? And for instance, this is a record of the last week. This was last Sunday. You see the demand is less, of course, the consumption is less on Sunday. This is the thick line here, and it is much more produced, especially we had a very sunny week last week, by solar energy. So people can see this online each and every day. And this is another project we had in the past to make them aware of how in the climate clock, how temperature is rising and how we still spend fossils and how they contribute to the earth heating of the earth. Not so important. Involve public in decision-making, asking for a vote. When we planned the new wind park, this was not clear that everybody was in favor of this project. There had been also people that were against that. So they organized themselves and started an anti-campaign against the wind. And it was our job to convince them that this is good, that clean energy by wind power is a benefit for Pfaffenhofen. And for instance, we provided simulation of the view. So you cannot see, this is the existing one. It's just hard to see, it would be somewhere here. And these are the three new ones. And this is the one under construction that is up to that height now. We had this referendum when we asked for a vote, and it was nearly 57% in favor and 43% against. But it was overall, it was in favor. Define the key stakeholders and seek assurance. In Pfaffenhofen, it's easy. The stakeholders had been the city council, the energy and solar society, the citizen energy cooperative, the municipal utilities, the Stadtwerke, the municipality Pfaffenhofen, the climate protection and sustainability administration department that had been newly established after the first climate protection program, and we have a sustainability advisory board since 2020. So these are more or less beside the public. So they are additional, of course, but those are the ones that are driving the rule. And don't forget, very important also to try to incorporate the youth. In Pfaffenhofen, we have an excellent, let's say, institution that is the Youth Parliament since 1998, because he who has the youth has the future. So they work on their dirt park, skater hall. They organize bus on demand, but they also work in our workshops, and we always have representatives of the Youth Parliament when we talk about energy plans and transition plans and things like that. Agree on clear and stringent targets and show the implementation plan. This is what I showed you already. These are clear target from 6 to 6 to 3, clear target climate neutral by 2032, or 100% electricity and energy independence. Clear targets, but not only the targets, point out also the way how to reach the target. That is more or less the implementation strategy. As an example, coming back to electricity, when we started at 2016, we told them, hey, 70% are from local sources, 30% we have to purchase from outside. At the end, we want to have 100%, but not only the 110 gigawatt, but the 210 gigawatts for our target
35. Don't only put these two goals, the two situations, but also tell them how you want to implement this. And then we pick out from our strategy the line that has to deal with electricity. And from here to there, we come by an addition of 10 more wind turbines and 60 hectare open spaces. Very easy on the one side, but be honest. Support planning and project management with software tools, that is not so important. We provide the software tools on a small scale, residential scale system. So when you plan your house, you can provide, we provide, the ESV provides web links for energy saving checks. Or for instance, if you plan to build up an own photovoltaic system, you go to this consulting service of Stadtwerke, you put in by Google Maps your house, they show your roof and the area that is available, what is south or west orientation, and what is the inclination, and how much electricity could you expect, and how much would it cost, and blah, blah. But also on a large scale, it is very important to have your expertise and the software support. For instance, if you plan another windmill, you have to deal with where is the shadow in the morning, in the evening, when do you have to switch off your wind turbine because of effects or the noise. Or on the other hand, even if you plan solar plants, you have to be careful that one configuration, for instance, provides glare, that means reflections of the sun. One configuration here in summer time, in the summer means. The other configuration would provide glares in spring or autumn. So you have to be very careful on that and have to work with the technical experts. Also to provide financial participation, this is what I already mentioned. You get acceptance of your project when you provide profit sharing. Those people who live close to a wind turbine are much happier with this situation when they get a rebate on electricity costs, for instance. They get their electricity some cents cheaper. This helps, of course, to increase the acceptance. And at the end, again, provide consistent communication throughout the process. Keep them informed, keep people informed every time. So explain your project is the message. Here in Pfaffenhofen, we have a news channel where the citizens' meetings are transmitted during the meeting time. We have printed matters once a month where we have this. We have also an app where you can online see what's going on, but you can also put in your opinion, your critics, your suggestions or whatever. And presentations, our mayor is going out to the citizens and is presenting them the actual situation. So I think this is more or less all that I have. And I thank you very much. But before I close this presentation, I want to take the opportunity to thank very much these wonderful colleagues that contributed by providing documents, presentations, and photographs. And especially I want to thank very much Andreas Herschmann from ESV and BEG, Sebastian Brandmeier from Municipal Utilities, and Peter Stapel from the Sustainability Department. Thank you very much. And I think I can hand over, and I'm happy to answer your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Muthig. It was very, very interesting. A lot of technical details, a lot of inspiration. Let's see if our participants are ready to ask questions. I'm pretty sure there are many things that people would like to hear from you or learn how to do it. If you have questions, you may either write them in chat. My colleagues will help me take them from there and ask them directly to Mr. Muthig, or you can raise hand In the bottom menu, you can see the reactions almost to the left corner, and there you have the option to raise hand, and I will give you the floor. So we already have a hand up. Mr. István Ferenci, if you want to ask the question, please unmute yourself and ask the question.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me fine?
Yes, we can.
Thank you very much for the opportunity and the presentation as well. My question concerns electricity production and the grid. So when you are using the national or the local grid, but not your very own local community grid, and to balance out overproduction or underproduction. So when you're overproducing, you're sending it off to other counties, other states in Germany. And when you're not producing enough, you're buying from somewhere through the grid. I suppose, if that's right, how cooperative is the electricity grid, the companies, the system? How much of a conflict is there between your interests and their profit interests? And is there a change in how much they charge for you using the grid? I'm asking this because obviously here, if you're overproducing, they're buying it at a very low price. If you're buying from them when your production is not enough, it's very expensive. And whenever you try to form an energy community where you would balance out your production and consumption within the community, you find it very difficult to do that as a group without individually dealing with the electricity company or the grid. Thank you.
Thank you, István. You completely hit the point. It is exactly the way that you described it in the past or up till now. We had exactly to face these problems. We sell our electricity at a low price and buy it at a higher price. That is clear. But to become rid of this problem, we want to establish our own storage system so that we get independent of that. And the power to gas system that I showed you will exactly play this role. It will store the electricity over months until we need it, and we will try to balance that. On the other hand, for instance, at the time being, we use the public grid outside as our storage. This is why we sell our excess electricity and we buy when we need additional one. So we want to replace this external storage by our own storage. And this will take another, let's say, couple of years. Technically, we are through. It's again a matter of administration, because it is not so easy to understand why should we pay for our own electricity, the electricity that we have produced. Why should we? Of course, we have to pay when we transport it via the public network, but we don't have to pay when we have our own network. So maybe we have to build our own line of 2 kilometers, whatever. Then we are within our circle. Now, when we are leaving from production to the place where the storage will be established, then we have to pay transmission fees and taxes and all that kind of stuff. For our own electricity, we have to pay taxes when we sell it to us, and we have to pay taxes when we buy it from us. So these are circumstances that have to be overcome, but this is a political issue. And be aware that we have now all our representatives on that way
to make them aware of that. There we need clear political clearance of that. This has to be clarified very soon.
Thank you for the answer. Mr. Ferenczi, do you want to add anything? Do you want to ask something else? Is that fine? Okay. We have another question also from Hungary in chat. I'm going to read it. How far does Pfaffenhofen see itself as a leader? Who is a good example for you? What is the percentage of such front-runner cities in Germany?
Number one, we do not see as a leader from the with the understanding that yes, we started as a leader. It turned out that in some with some respect we had been the first one to do the one or the other, and to some extent we were lucky because our circumstances were the way they are compared to other cities and towns and whatever in Germany. There are other ones that have already reached their self-sufficiency. There are some smaller villages in Franconia and in Swabia that I'm aware of, and they are smaller ones, of course. Yeah, but no, there's also an example, a bigger one example. Yeah, there are already some that have achieved that we are still on the way to get it. And the third question I forgot.
Who is a good example for you?
We are a little bit cherry picking, so we take the best of what is most suited to our situation. So we take electricity for production from there and energy storage from there. So we do not have the one and only example city that we say this is our ideal. Because again, as I mentioned to you at the introductory remarks, it will not be, nobody will be able to adapt it one-to-one to take the ideal condition, but to pick out what is most appropriate for your situation.
Totally agreeing on this. Probably the balanced perspective is the best. Since I don't see other hands raised, we do have some questions from Romania, which we gathered before the webinar. One, for instance, concerns the mandate that every mayor or executive structure has. For instance, in Romania, the long-term approach is limited to 5-year vision, or rather 4 years, as long as the electoral cycle lasts. How can local authorities be taught to think about projects that aim at a time that is longer than the electoral cycle?
Oh, that's also a very interesting question, because it needs the responsibility of those who are in charge of running a community, running a town, that they say, okay, when we decide this step, we go this step. And in our case, it was really the broad consent of the complete city council when they're on the way. So this was the new colorful coalition, as well as the Conservative Party that are the other part in that. So they all agreed in going this way because this is our own future. So in case that next election the majority will change, I'm quite convinced that also the other parties would continue this way because they agreed on doing that as well. I mean, these are no guarantees, but on the other thing, I rely on the public, and people know what they want, and they would, of course, avoid that there would be a big change back to the old situation.
So basically, it's power to the people, because from what we see in conflictual situations in Romania, we have no coalitions or political parties fight, probably the public pressure would be the one tool helping us get in the right direction. Another question, which is more technical, but very close to the situation you have described, comes from another city in Romania, from Buzău. From your experience, what would be the maximum percentage of solar energy in Romania's energy mix, which you may not really know, but let's say in a general energy mix, so as not to create imbalances in the national system and to obtain maximum efficiency?
You're right. I'm not aware in detail about the Romanian situation, but from my overall experience, I would say a percentage of around about 40% could be achievable. And being aware that what does it mean? Then you have electricity during the day and in summertime. Simply speaking, you have no, depends on your storage capacities. You have no solar electricity during the night and very few in wintertime. So it's solar, only solar needs storage. But solar can be balanced very good with wind, because wind is, especially here in Central Europe, is complementary to solar energy. We have much more wind in wintertime and we have more sun in summertime. So this helps to an overall degree, but both of them are volatile energies. Solar only when the sun shines and wind only when the wind is blowing. So to some extent they are balanced, and they need, on the other hand, storage capabilities to make it.
Right.
And then how much is always a matter of, it will be an economic question as well. How much money are you willing to spend into storage to increase your independency? Or we'll say, okay, we'll live with a kind of an imbalance between summer and winter, and we have other resources available because we are burning wood residues or whatever.
Okay, so since we are in the solar energy area, we had a similar question, and basically you already touched upon the answer. What is the role contribution of solar energy in achieving climate neutrality compared to other renewable energy sources? And what are its limitations?
Okay, what benefits is of clear, and of course, the sun is not sending a bill. You don't have to pay for solar energy. Of course, you have to pay for the installation that converts sun energy into electricity. That's clear. So this is the bit, you have to pay the sheikhs for oil or the gas barons for gas, but you don't have to pay the sun. The limitations are, of course, the volatility, the availability over time. It is not a constant energy as, for instance, compared to water. We have our water that runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, very constant. Sun has its ups and downs. These are the biggest constraints. Combined with wind, it balanced to some extent. I already mentioned that. Yeah, it's cheap, and it's one of the cheapest at all, because solar panels are even more cheaper than they had been in the past. So there is a curve going down over the last 20 to 30 years, also due to Chinese panels, of course. So these are some other constraints you have to keep in mind, but usually it's okay.
Okay, thank you for the answer. Since we're quickly running towards the end of the webinar, would anyone else like to ask a question from the public? I see no raised hands. I would, however, provide the floor to a slightly different question, and may it be the last. is it really possible for mankind to stop the temperature increase by 2 degrees Celsius on the long term? How do you see it at a personal level?
Clear answer. Technically, it would be possible. Clear answer also, I don't believe that mankind can achieve this common approach, because people usually learn only from catastrophes, and maybe it does not yet hurt too much until they feel forced to join forces. And I don't know which institution this should be. United Nations is too weak to do that as of today. So it is really a hard question. I think we have all the tools in hand. We could do it, and maybe a strong economy like Germany could pave the way and could demonstrate that it's even possible for an industrial state to do that. But this would mean efforts, much more efforts than we do today, because with the German climate protection goals, as they are defined today, we are not able to reach the 1.5 degree goal, and maybe not even the 2 degree goal. So that's a pity to my extent. And it's more a human problem than it is a technical problem.
Indeed. Thank you so much for the answer. Thank you to the team in Hungary who picked such an inspirational speaker for the first webinar. Thank you to all the participants and to the interpreters, without whom we wouldn't have managed to get all the information through. Before closing the webinar, I would like to ask you to open your cameras and let's take a picture all together for the article that we're preparing after this webinar. We're waiting for everyone to turn on their cameras.
The last slide, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I think that's the best we can do. I'm going to ask my colleagues to... Oh, we're still having interpreters as well. Thank you so much. It's good to see faces because webinars are so difficult. Okay, so my colleagues, please take the print screen. Thank you so much. If you want to send questions, we can also have them by email and send them to Mr. Muthig. Follow the information on the project Ready4NetZero, and please come by for the next webinars. Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.